Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are now 2 days away from the start of the Crucible. We're already a long way into the World Championship in some ways because we've just gone past Judgement Day. And what a couple of days that was.
Boring qualifying this year. Let's rush through it. Not much to talk about. Unbelievable 10 days, Phil. I feel a bit half snooker broken already. Gonna need a couple of good sleeps going into the 17 days and nights to come. It really has been something else, hasn't it? At the English Institute of Sport. We'll talk loads about that. And we have had the first round draw for the Crucible. So we'll look ahead to that as well. And we've enlisted some help, haven't we, for this big old review and preview effort. Our guest presenter for this episode is one of the big hitters of the snooker press room. If you read a snooker story in a UK newspaper over the coming weeks, there's a very good chance it's been written by this man. He writes for a number of outlets, including the Daily Mirror, Daily Express and Daily Star, and is the news editor at the Lancaster and Crowther Sports Agency. We are very happy to say that Shane MacDermott joins us on Talking Snooker. Shane, it's great to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Delighted to be on. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's great to see you. And just tell us a bit about yourself before we go on. You cover an awful lot of snooker, awful lot of football too for newspapers and various other outlets. And you're very well versed now, aren't you, in pacing yourself in covering this Sheffield Marathon?
Yeah, you don't actually realise how long it is at the start. You think it's going to fly by, and you get to the end, and it feels like it has. But yeah, it's 3 weeks away for us guys with the Judgement Day qualifiers because they're so important to be at. I was really excited the other day when I was packing. I had 18 pairs of pants and socks clean, ready to go, and then realised I was away for 3 weeks and not just the 17 days as I used to be a couple of years back. So yeah, have to do a bit of washing this week. Yeah.
I've asked loads of big questions in my career. Here's another one. I was wondering who's doing Shane MacDermott's laundry?
In my way, it might be Phil. Phil's very kindly offered, actually, and we are sat here in his house. So yeah, there's a chance I might get a freebie out of the Hague.
Yeah, for anyone watching on YouTube, which isn't that many people, but if you are, you can see me and Shane are sat together because he's in my spare room for a few days. Very welcome as always.
Yeah, very competitive rate as well. Few beers,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
very good.
It's cheap price up here.
Brilliant. Well, of course, we are just looking forward, aren't we? All of us covering it. We're only a small part of it, but everybody involved in snooker is just so excited about the World Championship to come. We got Judgement Day to tell you about, or Judgement Days plural, and they were certainly dramatic enough. But Phil, when we were last on air, we talked listeners through the first 3 days of action. Well, the few days before Judgement Day really were something else. I've just got a few headlines here, and this is literally sort of skimming over what I thought was one of the great qualifying. I know recency bias and all that, but for sheer stories, drama, I could hardly believe what I was seeing most days. We had a whitewash, Aaron Hill over Harris Tahir at 10-0. A 16 red clearance from Marco Fu in his 10-4 win over Ben Mertens. Only the seventh ever and the second in World Championship. An outrageous match Europe between Anthony Hamilton and Stephen Hallworth. It went 9-0 Hamilton. Hallworth back to 9-8. Hamilton won it 10-8. Exits for some of snooker's biggest names, like the Crucible winner of 10 years ago, Stuart Bingham, losing 10-6 to Michael Holt. Jack Lazowski losing 10-8 to Zach Shirty. And Stephen Maguire going down 10-3 to Gao Yang. We saw Dominic Dale, Joe Perry and Anthony Hamilton bowing out. That's a goodbye and thank you to Dale and Perry as their terrific professional careers come to an end. While we think Hamilton is planning to go to Q School. And if that wasn't enough, let's first get your verdict, Phil, on something quite extraordinary. Jackson Page with two 147s in the same match. His 10-2 win over Alan Taylor as he won himself a Triple Crown bonus of £147,000. How do you react to something as dramatic as that? I know we were texting each other. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, I was absolutely buzzing about that. That's one of my favourite stories for ages in snooker, or in anything really. Having never made a maximum professionally before that game, and then to make two in the same match to win all that cash. At 23 years old, I think we worked out his previous top earning for any tournament was 32,500. So he's absolutely demolished that in a few frames, and it's plus 10,000 for the bonus in the qualifying for a 147. And if no one else gets a maximum, it's another 15,000 on top of that. So it might be 172 grand. And we were speaking to him yesterday after actually lost his final qualifier. And he's just buying his first house. He's just had a baby. So well timed for a huge windfall. And yeah, I mean, massive congratulations to him. What a piece of history that, you know, it's taken all these years to for one person to do it. It might not happen for a long time to come. So unbelievable from someone who's, we talk about the standard through the game now. I don't think Jackson's ever been in the top 32. So to do stuff like that, it's just incredible stuff.
And tell us about Hamilton Hallworth. I mean, that must have been. I mean, I know you like me using that phrase, clammy tension. I mean, that must have been the most, extraordinary example of that for quite some time. I thought Hallworth would win at 8-9. Yeah. I thought Anthony had gone, and I thought he'd won that next one virtually. I mean, how Hamilton held himself together for that break, I just don't know.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, I popped along there, and it was 8-0 after the afternoon session. So I thought, okay, well, I'll watch an hour or so here and that finish, and then I'll nip over to watch whoever it was, Holt against Lyons, or Heathcote was playing Boyko, I think. But my word, I was settled in for that match for a little while. I was back a lot later than I thought. I didn't have my dinner before I went out because I thought this won't be a long one. I was regretting that. Although I did shout out to podcast listener Dave, who was sat in front of me there, and he we were chatting away, and he went and brought me some water at one point because it was getting long. So thank you, Dave. But yeah, incredible stuff. Because obviously Hallworth won a few, won 3, 4, and you still just thought, well, it could be over at any moment. And as it gets closer and closer, yeah, like you, I thought, well, he's going to win this. And I spoke to Stephen the next day, who was kind enough to speak to me while having a few beers, I think. That he thought, well, he went from a point where thinking I can't win to a point where he's like, I can't lose. Like, this is nailed on. Like, especially when some flicks started going his way, he was getting the run of the ball at sort of 9-7, 9-8. And it looked like it was going to be the most remarkable comeback ever. And Hamilton said afterwards, he was thinking, he was just like, I'm going to be a quiz answer here. I'm going to be a pub quiz answer.
Oh, no.
First person ever to do it. And so, yeah, his break really, because he was gone for some time there. It looked like he couldn't pot a ball for quite a while. So then that break he made to win it was really exceptional. He said it was one of the best breaks he's ever done, which is believable in that circumstance. And yeah, it was just incredible tension. The whole evening was great. I was so glad I went because on the next table was Jimmy White playing Ashley Carty, and that was easily the best attended. There were probably 60, 70 people watching that game because Carty's from around here as well, so he would have had a few in. And then a handful of people watching the other games. But yeah, I counted 13 of us still there at sort of 12:15 or whatever it was, watching the end of Hamilton Hallworth. But yeah, remarkable drama, and just really credit to Stephen because a lot of people would have just been throwing the cue at things at 9-0 down. He was so impeccably disciplined. He didn't even play like a quick shot, never mind the wrong shot at any point. He was so zoned in. And I think that was a real sort of credit to him. And good signs for him coming back on the Pro Tour because I think he's got a good future.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, what I took from that, among other things, is you've got little servants going around bringing you things. I mean,
I didn't ask him to. Dave was very kind to bring me some more.
Shane, you've been to a few Judgement Days now. Can you maybe sum it up in your words? I mean, you go to a lot of snooker, a lot of different kinds of tension, nothing like the Crucible tension. But what is the atmosphere like at this event?
It's incredible, really. You could cut it with a knife. I know it's very cliche, but there's so much reward and devastation there. You see players who are into the Crucible for the first time. Players, you see them backstage who are effectively in tears because they've missed out or they've fallen off the tour. Obviously, a couple of people like Dale and stuff, they've retired after this one. That was their last one. We won't see them again. We won't interview them again in that circumstance of as a player. It's a crazy place, and you can just see with how tight some of the games go. Like, you wouldn't want to be playing in them, would you? It's palpable, that tension.
Yeah, no, really good way of saying it. And quite a sort of poignant way of thinking there that we won't interview these guys again as players. Maybe don't sort of say that enough, but after decades, that's quite something, isn't it, when they've been around that long? I feel duty bound to mention Tom Ford. Now, he wasn't very complimentary, was he, about Ross Muir? This is a social media post that he quite quickly deleted, I think, but as the youngsters say, the internet never really forgets. I mean, he said, I can't believe how it went. That's the match. My opponent deliberately played slow and messed the balls up on purpose. Good players don't do this. His tactics worked. Good luck to him, as he knew what he was doing. P.S. He is SHITE. So we don't swear on this podcast, do we, Phil? We got quite near there in some ways, but I think he'll regret that, won't he? That feels like a heat of the moment thing to me. He's a good bloke, Tom, but that wasn't his finest hour.
Yeah, it seemed pretty poor, especially because there's nothing really to complain about there. Someone playing a bit slowly, someone messing the balls up, as he said. Tom Ford's probably a much better break builder than Ross Muir. So if you're Ross Muir, you're going to mess the balls up. He's not cheating. He's just playing to benefit himself, and it worked clearly. And Tom's sort of there has just told everyone whoever's going to play him how to beat him, really, by sort of reacting in that way. I did see, I don't know if you'd seen this, Nick, but Ross Muir tweeted a picture of himself reading Rob Mould's report in the Sun of Tom's thing. And Ross said, I mean, his expression is very funny, actually, if anyone can find it on social media. But he just said, not to be yesterday, but this is after he lost to Ben Wollaston. Not to be yesterday, but congratulations to Ben. Delighted for him and his family. Great guy. Hope he goes far. Thanks for the support this season. Lots of things to take forward and improvements to make. Looking forward to the next campaign. So in a way, that is quite the complete contrast of how to post after losing a match to what Tom posted after losing to Ross. And I think probably Ross has went down a bit better with the viewing public.
And those are dynamite things for us a bit, aren't they, Shane? Obviously, it made the papers, it made the press. So, it's wonderful for our trade. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I wasn't going to say this, but it came out with Shane Lowry at the Masters. I mean, this wasn't us interviewing him straight away, but he was talking about high emotions. He was furious after a round. I said, I don't want to talk to you lot. Well, we don't want that to change. We love all that. But emotions are heightened, aren't they? And someone made a good point on social media because tennis players get that bit longer. But then, the question came back to me, when was the last time you saw a memorable tennis conference? And I joked that it was Boris Becker in '87 saying, I lost a tennis match, not a war. Bit flippant for me. There's been a few good ones since then. But it's kind of true, isn't it? When they sort of calm down, the tennis players, they're dull as dishwater.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Nick. I do think the players, obviously, they come off straight after a match. I don't think some people recognise, actually, when they read the paper or see Phil putting something out online, that they've literally come off 30 seconds sometimes. You might be on a Zoom press conference or they're in the press room with you. And obviously, they are absolutely devastating and things get said in the heat of the moment. Us as journalists obviously lap it up, but you understand those players are under immense pressure. You don't know what's going on in their private lives a lot of the time as well. And that could lead to obviously some memorable interviews. We always say we get some of our best quotes from losing interviews, but you do take what they say with a tiny bit of a pinch of salt sometimes because they have just come off and it does mean everything to them at the end of the day.
The Crucible can be the maddest place of all for that because sometimes it's
Yeah.
Rob in the corridor.
Yeah.
They haven't even got to the press room when they're doing an interview, and that's literally like 10 seconds after coming to the table. So it is crazy. But yeah, they do give out good quotes sometimes.
I wouldn't like to do an interview straight after the Tony Meo Trophy, Phil. I nearly always lose that, as we know. Unbelievable record. I've got a terrible record in that. Judgement Day 1. And let me go through the results from there then. Chris Wakelin beat Martin O'Donnell 10-2, 6 centuries from Wakelin. Zach Shirty 10, Ricky Warden 3. Have to say, Phil, Zach, a brilliant guest on here recently, said how much it would mean to get to the Crucible. He's done it. Xiao Tong 10, Elliot Slesser 8. Well, I certainly have my say again on social media about the language surrounding Zhao, but there's no doubting the standard in that match. 3 centuries from each. Loads of other top breaks. I mean, Elliot will play so much worse than that and win matches. He came up against just a great performance. Zhao Yulong beat Wonsijan 10-5. It was Ryan Day 10, Sonny Akani 5. Ben Wollaston on here a couple of weeks ago, beating Ross Muir 10-4. I mean, Wollaston said he felt a bit embarrassed, very honest to us, about how he'd only played at the Crucible once, well, he's going there again. David Gilbert 10, Aaron Hill 9. Oh, not a bit of a sickener for Hill, that one, 9-7 up. Gilbert finished strongly with breaks of 1-1-8, 53 and 63. And then Daniel Wells 10, Gary Wilson 9. Hats off to Wells, played a really good decider. I watched that one, including a break of 52. I mean, what can you pick for highlight there, Phil? There's just so many. I mean, Zhao against Elliot Slesser was just great standard. And are we pleased for Shirty and Wollaston, friends of the podcast, going to the Crucible? Very special.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Surety, the debuts are always special. So Surety and Wells there. Well, almost Wollaston, it's been so long, it felt like a debut the way he was talking about it. So yeah, delighted for him as well, especially with the health problems he's been through. I think I said to him at the height of those when he was sort of having to go to bed for hours and hours a day, did you think you'd be back at the Crucible? And he said there were huge doubts whether he would even be a professional. He's close to dropping off tour. So yeah, really, really pleased for those guys. Zach's a great character. I know people liked him on here, and I think if he can have any sort of run here at the Crucible, he'll be a very, very popular guy. I know when Gilbert first got to the semis and then did it again last year, he's got that same sort of down to earth guy you'd like to speak to in a pub. I think he'd be a real popular um, guy who just get to a wider audience in the World Championship. So that would be good. And to beat Ricky Walden 10-3, he played amazing after beating Lisowski the way he did. So thoroughly deserved. Great to see that purple patch from China carrying on. I thought Wakeling was excellent. He was really impressive and he speaks so confidently now. Um, and yeah, you're right about Slessor. I mean, I spoke to Slessor before this and he said he's had a good season, but an example of how hard it is. He said the best game he's played all season was in Saudi Arabia. He said it was easily his best performance and he lost 6-3 to Sean Murphy. This might have been even better, or it might have been his second best performance of the season, and he lost 10-8. I thought it was excellent, but Zhao has just been so impressive, and what a nightmare for anyone to draw there. But yeah, just loads going on. I mean, you can talk about this, Shane. We had a really emotional chat with Daniel Wells afterwards. He was delighted to be there and a lot going on.
Yeah, it was a really intriguing interview, wasn't it? He was talking about some changes he's made off the table, some issues he's had with his drinking, and he's gone teetotal. And
Mm.
he was basically in tears, wasn't he, at
Mm.
times? I know we joke about it, and Rob Walker trying to make people cry, but we nearly unintentionally did it ourselves. It was a very candid chat, and he'll be very popular among the viewers this fortnight.
Really, that sounded like he really went into some depth. That's was, obviously sounds like some real issues to address in his own sort of life away from the table.
Yeah, to an extent, I don't think it was like, well, yeah, no, yeah, but I think it was just a long journey as well. I think he
Yeah.
first played in qualifying when he was 18, I think he said, and he lost a decider to Hawkins, and so he just thought, well, it's not going to be a long time at the Crucible. So it was a very long journey. He's been off tour. He's been through some stuff which he spoke about. We don't want to give too many details. We've not written up the
Yeah,
story
that's a
yet,
good point. Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was. I mean, that is exactly why you want to be there at these things. There's emotions running high. Surety was sort of the opposite. He was just like buzzing. He was like ready to bounce through. But Wells, it was clearly not the end because he wants to go further, but a huge moment in a very long snooker journey for him, and it meant everything to him. So yeah, it was very easy to be very pleased for him.
And it was quite telling actually, because obviously he was the first winner of that Paul Hunter scholarship
Yeah,
and was able to practice at that World Snooker Academy in that same building.
yeah.
And that's where his journey sort of started. And obviously his journey hasn't ended. He's got to the Crucible, but there was a lot of emotion there. He was very overwhelmed. A good family man now, and I hope he does really well.
Hmm.
I mean, Shane, we know you as said one of the big hitters at the snooker press room. It must be difficult at the moment for you guys, particularly that work for papers, to judge what stories you're actually going to do because you've just got a welter, haven't you? And the tournament itself is coming up. This must be. There are times I know during your career, I'm sure, different times you're like, oh, not sure which line to go for. You maybe don't have quite enough lines, but now you're overladen with them.
Yeah, it's really funny actually because you get so many in the can at the qualifiers because you speak to all of them and you get usually you don't always get a good story from everyone, but I think Phil would agree. Yesterday and the day before, everybody came out with something good,
Yeah,
had a good story to tell. Yeah, and you wait for the draw, and you're like, oh, who do we do before the draw? But you do that line because you draw the person they've spoken about. It would have been better to do it after the draw, and it's really difficult to sort of, but it's not mapped out like in tennis or something.
yeah.
Players come in, or when it's tiered, they come in at certain rounds. You know they're going to play, and then we got to speak to all the 16 tomorrow. Yeah, some of those stories sadly might not see the light of day because they're playing early in the event. Yeah, it's a very exciting time, but yeah, a lot of organization.
It's crazy to think we've got too much stuff, but
Yeah,
it does always happen. There'll definitely be
Yeah.
good lines that came out of qualifying that will never get written up, or will get readdressed later, but won't get used now. But it's a shame, but I mean, it's a good situation to be in otherwise.
Yeah, nice problem to have. That line they use about sort of football managers that have a lot of good players and have to leave stuff out. That's sort of a good way rather than the opposite. Judgment Day 2 then, and maybe even better than one actually. I mean, I thought they were both really good, but Fan Zhengji beat Michael Holt at 10-4, break of 1-3-5 in that win for Fan and six other half centuries. Hossein Vafai, what form from him beating Wang Yichen 10-4. Five centuries in that from Hossein. Ali Carter 10, Haigwei Kwang 5. I mean, Carter absolutely delighted. He didn't think he'd qualify, he said, but he's done the job. He's going there, I think 21 times, is it now? Quite remarkable, really, from Ali. Pang Jung-soo 10, Jamie Jones 6, 7 half centuries there from Pang. And you mentioned Jackson Page, yeah, 2 maximums, but no place at the Crucible. He's beaten 10-7 by Joe O'Connor. Lei Pei Fan 10, Gao Yang 9, another decider, breaker 66 in the decider from Scottish Open champion Lei. Wu Yi's a 10, Matthew Stevens 9. Oh, I mean, that was going to be painful for any, those guys that lost it. Stevens really had his chances ahead in the decider. Nerveless stuff from Wu. He doubled both the last reds, didn't he? I mean, to double 2 in a row, that's a hell of an effort. And then, well, we could do an episode in itself on Matthew Selk, Jimmy Robertson. Bloody hell. Robertson 8-3 and 9-6 up. Absolute sickener for him. Amazing table, Phil. I often say, pictures are often better than videos in this sport. That was an example. All the reds in one end. People said, is it like that Tony Mio second mention already? No, we don't even have tables like that in that. It was quite amazing. But then, of course, we had a little bit of drama, right at the end. Robertson had the chance to pot the pink. He didn't get it. Selk potted pink and back for victory. And then said in his interview with Rob Walker, I know he'd have spoken to you guys as well, he had no good feeling whatsoever and apologised to Robertson after Robertson complained after one frame that Selk was distracting him and putting him off. So right at the end, Phil, I'm sure you were thinking, oh, that's probably it. You've got a hell of a juicy story.
Well, yeah, it was straight. It was a strange one, isn't it? Like the sort of accused party coming out and telling the tale. Because if he just said nothing, nothing would have come out of that, really. Because we don't speak to the losers very often at all, and we didn't there with Jimmy. So that was a strange one. And I have spoke to. I'll reveal now. I've spoke to Jimmy Robertson this morning, and he said he is quite disappointed with Matthew. So he said that there might be more to what Selt said there. So we'll never know fully, I don't think. But there was something going on. But yeah, I mean, Robertson will be good. It was 8-3 up, wasn't he? And then he had that chance on the pink, which wasn't a gimme, but you would expect to get it very much so. But yeah, great drama. 3 deciders at the end there. All good stuff. And then at the other end of the scale, yeah, like you said, Hossein, I think he made 5 tons and 3 in the last 3 frames. And he's playing with what sounds like quite a nasty shoulder injury. So yeah, very, very impressive. I know Connor, I thought I'd give a shout for him. I mean, that's the sort of clash of styles. Is 2 relatively young players. Jackson's all out attack. Joe's more methodical. He gets called steady a lot, which feels a bit of like a backhanded compliment, doesn't it? Because he's exceptionally good, but he has got a very steady manner to him. And it's very, very effective, and he was really good in that game. So yeah, no, good performances throughout, and some interesting qualifiers.
I mean, Shane, that last frame between Selt and Robertson, I'm sure you're all saying it up there. What a sort of crazy frame. It looked like it might go to a rewrap. I'm glad it didn't, because I'm not a fan of that. I don't mind it when they're at one end and they're around the pack, but I think if they developed it that much, I'm really glad they didn't go down that route.
Yeah, it's just a different style of snooker, isn't it? What those matches when they get tight like that drama of that frame and how difficult it was going to be. No one was going to make a clearance in that frame, were they?
No.
And win it in one shot. And when you have the multiple clearance chances to win the match, when you have those multiple chances to win the match in those deciders, that's when the drama for us guys and the viewers is so good and so heightened. Not for the players. They would have absolutely hated it. Every shot would have been a pint of blood, which I think Matthew came in and said it was afterwards to us. But yeah, some great drama right at the end of Judgment Day when we all thought it was all said and done, really.
Exactly. I know, Phil, you've sort of quite rightly held it on social media, loads of fans as well. We can't have this format all the time, and that's the good thing in a way, because you want them sparingly and you look forward to them so much. Going from table to table to table, I love the NFL. We get that every Sunday, but not often in this sport. It's a great part of our viewing year, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it wouldn't work in sort of the main stages because you want to sit down and watch a match as much as possible. But sometimes it's such a treat because you feel like you're not missing a second. And as soon as you can tell when there's going to be a bit of a sort of steady bit of play, and then it's like straight on to the next one. There's always something going on. Even sort of the chopping and changing in the commentary box. It's just like, oh, here's Ken Doherty. Oh no, he's gone for a sandwich. Here's Steve Allworth. It's great. So yeah, no, a brilliant couple of days. And I know they do it in the UK as well. I don't know if there's more options to do it feel like I've said this every year, but I'd love to see a bit more of it if possible because it's just great entertainment.
It sort of feels like snooker's very own version of Soccer Saturday, doesn't it? You go to
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the action
Oh
is
yeah,
when a goal's scored, you see someone's wrapping up a frame, you go exactly where the action is.
exactly. And it was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? Judgment Day, just to say, great part of the season. Shall we now move on to the first round draw then? We know it, don't we? We had it drawn this morning on the BBC, and we'll talk about that in a couple of moments' time. We should say you are listening here to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf, and our special guest presenter, Shane MacDermott. The World Championship is on the way then, 17 magical days and nights, and this is the first round draw then. And there's some very intriguing ones. There's always going to be. Kyron Wilson against Lei Pei Fan. Jack Jones against Xiao Xing Tong. Neil Robertson has got Chris Wakelin. It's Mark Allen against Fan Zhengji. Ronnie O'Sullivan, Ali Carter, the one that leapt out of so many of us. Zhang Anda against Pang Jung-soo. Si Dry He against David Gilbert. Mark Selby against Ben Wollaston. It's John Higgins against Joe O'Connor. Zhao Gudong against Matthew Selt. Barry Hawkins has got Hossein Vafai. It's Mark Williams, Wu Yiza. Luca Purcell against Ryan Day. Ding Junhui against Zach Shirty. Sean Murphy against Daniel Wells. And Judd Trump against Zhao Yulong. Fascinating matches to come. And what we're going to do, aren't we, is talk as if Ronnie O'Sullivan's in it. I mean, we heard last night from a few sources, Sky saying he's leaning towards playing. He's had a good week of practice in Saudi Arabia. Phil's given up predicting either way. I don't blame him. I'm maybe going down the same route, but he's probably going to be there, isn't he, Shane? And Ronnie O'Sullivan, Ali Carter, maybe first word on that. I mean, so much history. Where do you stand on what sort of game it will be for Ronnie? I know Mark Selby said it's one he wouldn't like. I'm not sure about that. I mean, taking all the sort of drama about it, he's got a wonderful career record. What's your verdict?
Well, first of all, I think Ronnie will play. I think he pitches up tomorrow to the media day. I believe he'll play. I know he's not going to the Champions Dinner tonight, that inaugural Master Style World Champions Dinner tonight. He's one of the seven who aren't going from the Living World Champions. But yeah, I believe he'll be in Sheffield tomorrow for the media day. We're all looking forward to talking to him. But yeah, on that match, yeah, we'll all have the popcorn out ready, won't we? Ronnie's got a great record against him. But it is a bitter feud. They don't like each other as much as they will both try to play it down now. Something has gone on between them. We've had the barge gate, we've had
Yeah.
the Masters outburst after that. But as a match for Ronnie, I think it's a really great way for him to get into the tournament. He knows he's going to have to play well to beat Ali. He'll want to beat him. Ali will want to turn Ronnie over as well to stop him winning that 8-4 title and get some bragging rights himself. Yeah, it's going to be a brilliant contest, and a very intriguing one for the viewers at home.
Yeah, Phil, I mean, it's sometimes tempting, let's, play it down a bit. Let's not play it down. I mean, let's do the opposite of that. Let's play it up. I mean, that Masters final was horrible. I mean, I was there for that. There was the tension in the air. There was a outrageous tension in the air. There was so much there was a seething kind of thing between them out there. It spilled out into the press room. Yeah, they've had good moments together in the past, but there's no love lost. And let's call it a fractured friendship, shall we?
Oh yeah, well, if it was a friendship at some point, it's not anymore. It's long since fractured. Yeah, yeah, and they've, what they've said about each other. It is awkward. It's pretty tense, and yeah, I think O'Sullivan watching that draw would have been like, oh, that is the last thing I want, really. But I think if for his chances of winning the tournament, it's probably quite good because he'll be so focused on doing well. He's almost always beaten Carter. I know he didn't in that famous one at the Crucible, but he'll be favourite to win. And it'll get the competitive juices flowing. If he was going there thinking, oh, I'm just trying to take the pressure off and see how it goes, he'll be fully on game mode against Ali Carter, that's for sure, and is likely to do well. So it's interesting. We'll see what he says tomorrow, if he says anything. They both actually probably more often than not try and avoid saying anything, but it's just when they crack and do say something, it's real blockbuster stuff. And the Masters was the main example of that. Jamie Broughton from the BBC mentioned to Ali, this is before the draw yesterday, just mentioned, what would the prospect of playing Ronnie would be? Do you think he'll play? And Ali just said no comment. Didn't want to get involved, but he's got to get
Well,
involved now because he's playing him. So yeah, it's obviously the standout draw for the whole history and for the quality of it because Ali Carter is, along with one or two others, a name that no member of the top 16 would want to be drawn against. 21 times he's played there. I was surprised to say he's not won a game at the Crucible since 2019, which is a bit of a surprise.
yeah.
But experience-wise, he's got not met too many with more than him.
Yeah, I think I saw something like 10, 11 players. There might be Rob Walker that mentioned that. Only ever played there more. So he's, Ali Carter's got vast experience. Maybe we'll not have we don't want to be here forever. We've all got quite a lot of work to do and we're ahead of the tournament. But maybe a few words on each match, eh? I mean, Kyron Wilson, Lay Pay fan. Kyron beat Lay 5-1 at the World Open a couple of months ago. Lay, the Scottish Open winner. But, I mean, it sort of strikes me as Kyron will be quietly pleased with that, Phil, really. I think that's, out of all the ones he could have got, I think he wouldn't have bitten your hand off. That's a bit too rude. But I think he'll be quietly pleased.
Yeah, I think that's what they say, that you really want a debutant because it's pretty unlikely they're going to sort of fly out the blocks, even though they couldn't do qualifying and got a bit of momentum and confidence. But he's going to be nervous. He's going to take a bit of time to settle, most likely. And I mean, really, other than that Scottish Open win, he's not really done anything. He's done really well to get through qualifying there, but in actuality, he sort of won a decider against an amateur player to get through. So yeah, I mean, Kyron, I assume that must be the shortest odds of anyone in the first round. And I'd be stunned if anyone's backing Lay to pull off an upset. Of course he can. Anything can happen. Kyron could randomly buckle under the pressure completely of being the defending champion. I don't think anyone's expecting that to happen, but it could, of
No.
course. But yeah, it looks a good draw for Kyron, doesn't it?
Shane, we've had our say a lot on Kyron. Obviously, we haven't heard from you. He's been a glorious world champion, isn't he? I mean, not on the table, off the table. I mean, what do you make of some of these complaints that, he's trying a bit too hard or he's become a different person? We're not really buying that. We're saying he's essentially the same person with maybe a few gimmicks here and there. I mean, that's not a crime, is it?
I think Kyron's been a brilliant world champion, especially for us. He's given us brilliant access, brilliant quotes, and yeah, the theatrics and people say, "Oh, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that?" Because obviously we've seen him mess around with the snooker gods. He's given them a bit of a prod in recent days, hasn't he? Taylor put that video up. I think that's brilliant. You've got people saying that snooker doesn't have any characters. What about the 80s when it was the biggest thing in Britain? You don't have those characters of Alex Higgins and the likes of them, Dennis Taylors and stuff around. You got a guy who's doing that, and people are going, "Oh, it's fake, it's contrived, he's doing that. It's not really his personality." In actuality, Kyron, Phil and I have spent some time with him, yourself as well, Nick. It's a brilliant company, a great laugh. He's a brilliant family man, and he shows himself on social media, and then he gets slaughtered by people. Like you can't win on social media. My opinion on it is I try and stay off it as much as possible and just sort of post my work on there and stuff because it's a horrible place, and a lot of these players get attacked for no reason, really.
Are you surprised that any players are on social media at all?
I am actually. I know Mark Allen very well, as you both know, and as he gets him and Mark Williams and stuff, they share stuff of basically disgruntled punters who have lost bets and they get death threats. I hope your family gets cancer. Sean Murphy's had some horrible abuse about his weight before, which he's spoken about. It's just a horrible when you're in the public light. Obviously, you guys you've got great following with your podcast on social media, and that's brilliant. But there's parts of it where it's a real cesspit of people and humanity, and it should be better regulated, in my opinion.
Strong words. I'm sure many will be thinking that they're very fair words. I mean, what a sentence. He giving the snooker gods a bit of a prod. Yeah, he's been. I think the Crucible curse is rubbish. By the way, I'm going to make myself.
Oh no! Look, it's a real thing. I spoke to Ken Doherty the other day. It's a real thing. No first time winner's done it. The snooker gods are real.
I've got a column coming out. Let me see if I can persuade you otherwise. My line is: you can't have a curse for something that's too difficult. But listen, that's to come. That Sporting Life column, and also to come. Jack Jones, Zhao Xintong. Well, I mean, Jones won the only previous meeting 4-3 at the Welsh Open in 2022. I suppose the way he's playing, you've got to fancy Zhao, but obviously Jack has good Crucible pedigree. I mean, Zhao Xintong is going to be a story this World Championship, Phil. Definitely. He just looked a class above in qualifying. Is he quite at that level where he won the UK a few years ago? He's getting there, isn't he?
Yeah, but he looks absolutely amazing, doesn't he? But he's not really been tested. Obviously, he came through the UK qualifying, he came through this qualifying, and obviously he looked amazing on the amateur circuit, but that was predictable. And obviously he's played some good players. Slessor's a very good player, but I suppose in reality he's played one top 16 player in what, 2 years, 2.5 years, and that was Sean Murphy at the UK, and he lost to him very narrowly, to be fair. But it's going to be a step up in competition at the World Championship. I suppose Jack Jones is the lowest ranked, isn't he, of the top 16? And I'm not seeing the odds, but I would probably say Zhao is going to be favourite. But it's a big old clash of styles. I think I said in the
Mm.
last podcast, if someone was going to beat him in qualifying, they're just going to make it a grim grind. And if if anyone is willing to do that, Jack Jones may well be willing to do it. We just not seen much of Jack recently, have we?
No.
He wasn't playing in much of the Players Series. He's just had his first child, so he's not been about much. So yeah, it's actually quite a weird one to call because yeah, I think Zhao is favourite, but uh, Jack Jack's going to make that awkward for him, very awkward. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jack pulls that off. But it looked in qualifying. If Zhao got a chance, it was more than 50-50 chance that the frame is over. He looks so clinical at scoring. And if he can keep that up, then he's a threat to anyone. He's certainly a threat to Jack Jones. So interesting draw. And I suppose if those two favourites win, if we got Kyron against Zintong in the second round, that's blockbuster stuff.
Yeah, that's pure popcorn. I've already seen that popcorn emoji go up for that potential match. My goodness. Neil Robertson, Chris Wakelin. Shane. That's the thing about Robertson that strikes me. Everyone knows about his underwhelming Crucible record for his brilliance, but I think slightly untold thing is he often starts like a bit of an express train. He starts amazingly. You think, God, Neil's playing well. So that would be my worry if I was a Wakelin fan going into that. Wakelin has beaten Neil at the German Masters 5-4 a couple of years ago, but I noticed the recent wins are really comfortable ones for Neil, actually. So obviously you'd have to say, he starts as favourite. And I say he has these good starts, but Wakelin's a different customer now, isn't he? He's a much, much better player than he was, say, 2-3 years ago. So I really hope he plays well and makes a real match of that, because I think, that really could be a lovely one to watch.
I think that is one of the better matches of the draw. I know some people might not see it's got the same fireworks as your Ronnies and your Ali Carters, but I think that will be a really good game. Obviously, Wakelin pushed Judd really close that 1 year when he made it there, didn't he, as well before? I think Neil's in some cracking form. I spoke to him a couple of days ago on the phone, and he was really boyish about his bullish about his chances. He's made a few changes, which I won't go into, but he's changed his setup for the Crucible. He's going to do things a bit differently. And he is targeting a really deep run there again after so many years because he is such a brilliant player and one of the best players not to be a world champion, isn't he?
I don't
Yeah,
want
that's
to.
right. Yeah, I mean, I know Judd gets a lot of stick for his World Championship record, and maybe it's fair, but I find Robertson's Crucible record crazier than Judd's. Um, not been to a final. I mean, Judd's been to two of the finals at least, and Robertson's not been back there. He's not been to a semi-final for I can't remember how long, but it's a long time. And he's just been so relentlessly consistent at the top of the game for so
Mm.
long, apart from that one season last time. Um, so yeah, I sort of feel like he's due a deep run there as well, but he is in a tricky part of the draw.
Mm.
It'll be favourite to beat Wakelin. I don't think it'll be easy at all. Wakelin's got a shot, but that whole section is tough for him.
And Richard Mann, my colleague at Sporting Life, is tipping big things. I noticed a video he put up for Robertson, actually. It's certainly time he went deep, no doubt about it. And you're right, Job gets a far harder time, probably even for me, actually, than Neil does for his record. I think I don't want to reveal too much about what you've got in your piece, Shane, coming up. But Neil doesn't like the lack of room, does he? He needs to get that out of his head, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think he has done. He's linked up with this sports psychologist he's spoken about a couple of times this year when he's won his titles, Helen Davis. And I think that's totally gone out of his mind. You have to remember, it is very tight in there. Neil is one of the taller players. Actually, like Ken Doherty joked yesterday that he never had any trouble because he was more akin to a jockey than Neil Robertson. But it's that long walk, and Stephen Maguire said it before. And I think for Neil, sometimes he's had that in his head. And there was one year he did a preview with us, and at his club, he'd moved the stalls
Yeah.
sort of really tight around so he could practice the walking. And in my opinion, if you're doing that, as great as a player you are, if you're going to those extremes, then it is in your head. His changes and yeah, nothing to do with that type of thing. He's going to stay away from the Crucible and just try not to get involved in that circus, which Ronnie's said so many times in the past, and that's been the best for him. So I think Neil's got a great shot this year. He's played brilliantly. He said he's had a lot of regrets there in recent years, and he doesn't want to have those again, being dragged into sort of battles, which Jack Jones game in particular, being dragged down into some lengthy safety battles. So he's going to be all guns blazing, just like he was that year when he made those couple of 1-4-6s.
Yeah.
I've forgotten that in 3 frames. I
Yeah,
watched that in
crazy.
that nice little bit outside with our good friend Gary Moss, my fellow nerd of the game, as I always say. That was quite something, yeah. Mark Allen Fenn's Zhang film, and that was the Just Stop Oil match. I'd kind of forgotten that. I thought, of course it was. I mean, my feeling is that, I mean, I know you speak to Mark Allen an awful lot, Shane. So to get your word from you as well. I mean, Mark is sort of vulnerable, isn't he? A bit with the season he's had, but whether fans are meant to take advantage, I'm not sure. He's just not had as good a season as you'd expect him to have. But how many times over the years do we say this tournament is immaterial very often to the rest of the season? Kyron hadn't done much last year, but he said his form was okay, but his results really weren't. Yet he won it. So it would be a foolish man to write him off, wouldn't it, Phil? And we both said, haven't we, for the programme, I think we can reveal that he is still the most likely new winner.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's a few that's in contention, but
Mm,
it's just been so consistently good for so long. I mean, this seems like a really bad season, but he won that tournament in Saudi Arabia.
not been
He's
that
been to a
bad.
number of other semis. Um, it's one of those where for the vast majority of players, it'd be a very, very good season. But it seems like a terrible one for him because he's been so good of late. And yeah, I mean, the last couple of years have produced such hard to predict champions that you can't possibly look at Alan and go, well, he's not going to do it because he could easily do it. He's had a similar season to, he probably had a better season this season than Kyron did last season, or very similar anyway. So yeah, he's very much in with a shout. You'd expect him to beat Fan, although I was very impressed with how Fan played against Holt. Really, Holt had, had been growing into that tournament very well and impressively beat Bingham really in the previous round, and would have fancied his chances, having done so against Fan, but Fan beat him really handily. Uh, Very unpredictable player, isn't he? He followed up that European Masters win where he beat O'Sullivan in the final with next to nothing really. We just haven't seen much of him since. I know got him into the Champion of Champions the following season. He got to the semi of that and looked good there. So maybe he's a big stage player because you don't see much of him most of the season. Um, but yeah, I think he lost quite handily to Mark last time, but that was his debut at the Crucible, and obviously it was interrupted by that protest halfway through, so it's hardly sort of much to go off. Um, yeah, Mark's the favourite, isn't he? But of course, anyone in this draw is dangerous, and Fan when he gets going is good, but well, it's just quite few and far between where that happens.
Shane, what about
Yeah,
Mark? What about Mark? What's your verdict? Are we too harsh on these guys? Oh, you're not had a good season, Mark Allen. He actually would say that of himself, I'm sure. But if you were judging it in a kind of like in the round when he reached the UK semi, I was checking the Masters semi, one in Saudi, as Phil mentioned. But when these guys are that good, we judged them accordingly.
I think he judges himself accordingly, and I think that's
Yeah.
sometimes the problem for some of these players. Mark's definitely, he'll say this himself, he's his own harshest critic. And he might have been making those semis and he won in Saudi, but he really wasn't happy with his game. He spoke to me a couple of times in interviews saying he felt lost. Obviously, Terry Griffiths sadly passed away as well, which I know would have affected him fair quite badly because they were very close when Mark was coming through and he was his coach. But yeah, he had his other mentor, Joe Short, died a couple of years ago. So he felt lost with his game with nowhere to turn at one stage this season, which was around about the time of the UK's. And even he said getting to that semi final came a bit out of nowhere. But I don't think you can write him off. He's sort of he's a player a bit like Mark Selby. You wouldn't want to face in a long format at the Crucible because he can mix it in so many different ways. A brilliant, great builder. We know his touch is great with his cue ball control. But if it does go scrappy and there's a safety game to be had, he can mix it with the best as well. I think that'll be a really good game. Fan will probably fancy his chances because he'll look at Mark's season and think he might not be the force he was a couple of years ago, but Mark's been knuckling down in the last few weeks. He's put that on social media himself, and he'll really fancy his chances. I've tipped him up as the most likely new winner as well. So that's all three of us there. We got the hat trick.
We sort of mentioned Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ali Carter already. Just to say, from all your experience, maybe a word, Shane, about is Ronnie one of, if not the most extraordinary sports person you've dealt with on a regular basis? And just how pleased are we in the press room that we're expecting him to play? Because he kind of brings news like no one else, eh?
It's brilliant for the tournament to have Ronnie involved. A few of the players said that. Ken Doherty said he just brings that magic, that's a little bit of added stardust you need for the tournament because it'll be brilliant either way. But if you remember, Ronnie's never missed a World Championship since 1993, and the days of him making the annual pilgrimage to the Crucible, which we all do every year, are coming to an end. He's got less days ahead of him, less Crucibles than have gone past, and look, no one ever knows what Ronnie's going to turn up. Is he gonna come out flying, come out all guns blazing, blow everyone away and win an 8-4 title? It's plausible. He did it when he had a year off, didn't he, in 2013? He's obviously a lot older now than he was back then. But you don't know if Ronnie he can do his own heading, can't he? He can go away after one session, come back, shave his head or hair off. Obviously not got to sleep because he's a bit of an insomniac sometimes. You don't know what Ronnie's going to turn up, and sometimes, bless him, he doesn't actually know. And some people think he sort of makes up this anxiety and stage fright, but we saw his documentary. He really does go through it, especially at the Crucible with that cauldron. So I'm happy he's playing. I hope he's in a good place. I believe he's been knuckling down in his own little bunker the last few weeks. He's practiced with Barry Hawkins this week a couple of times. So yeah, it'll be good to see him, good to talk to him, and hopefully he's in top form and can have a real say on this championship.
That's real wise words there. Yeah, I love that. That's great stuff from you, Shane. Just to say one thing, Jimmy White's someone that surprises me because I often think, Jimmy, we've heard from Neil Foles and others how he can't bear stats. When he sees them with the Crucible and all that, I'll put that away. I don't want to see that. He's more of an instinct man. But Jimmy may be different when it comes to Ronnie matches because I saw him for TNT really going through in some depth against Ronnie's first round match against Marcus Campbell in 13. And Jimmy was making the point that Ronnie started really bad. I don't really remember this, actually. He said, he started awfully. Marcus Campbell should have been 3 or 4-1 up. Didn't take his chances, and Ronnie went on and then got a relatively comfortable win. And I thought, yeah, that might be Ali Carter's best bet early on. If Ronnie can weather the storm, on career record, I think you just got to fancy Ronnie, really. Bit conscious of time. Phil, Zhang An, Pang Jung Soo. This has got to be close. I had a look at the 1 year list. It's 18 against 24. I think maybe 10-7, 10-8 type job, even maybe a decider. Pang won 4-2 when they met at the World Open a couple of months ago. And I think we say a lot of these ones might go close. I fancy this one will.
Yeah, hard one to call that, isn't it? Zhang's he had such a remarkable season last time round where he came out of the blue really and was doing so well, and he's not backed that up. Pang has been making steady and impressive progress. He's quite methodical. He's not flashy like some of his other young Chinese compatriots, but he's very, very effective. And he pushed Ronnie O'Sullivan close there, didn't he? That was last year, was it? And I think this is the third year in a row he's qualified. I really rate him. So I'm not seeing the odds or anything, but if Pang is the underdog there, I'd fancy that. Because Zhang had that great purple patch, and he still flashes, isn't he? Because he made that 147 at the UK, but it was amazing. But he's lost that consistency, and I thought it was very strange last year at the Crucible because that was still when he was in that purple patch when he turned up, and he played really, really badly. So I'm not sure if he likes it there or not. It's an interesting one. I would fancy Pang if that is even regarded as an upset to pull off that upset.
What about CJE David Gilbert, Shane? I spoke to Kyron for an interview coming up for the World Championship programme, and he was sort of talking about playing Dave last year and just saying that lovely cue action of Dave. And, it really is when he gets going. I hope he plays well. C is not an enigma. He's a bit different than that, but he still we say on here, has that sort of naive side to his game, but lovely player to watch. Obviously, both former semi-finalists. So we're talking terrific Crucible pedigree.
but both brilliant players. But we're not going to have a late night that Tuesday night, are we, with those two? That is going to be. I think that's going to be a brilliant game of break building. And Dave's more than capable, as he showed last year, of sort of coming out of a little bit out of nowhere. Had a bad season. He was speaking to Phil and I and Rob Moore the other night about that. But he's got Andy Lee in his corner, the caddy. The caddy's got him going again, and hopefully he can have another big say on his championship. But see, brilliant prospect, isn't he? We keep calling him a prospect. It's a little bit unfair, really, because he's in that top 16 and he'll have a brilliant
Yeah.
chance himself. But that's going to be a cracking match. And I think it'll go close. I think 10-8 either way. Not sure which way, though.
It just seemed like a style that
Mm.
both would like to play each other. No, neither are going to tie the other one up really. So it's just going to be who hits form, who's knocking in the long balls. But yeah, it's not going to be too long a safety battle knocking around in there, I don't think.
Good stuff. A word, very good football journalist and good friend of mine, James Sharp, calls it the Leicester Fiesta. Don't tell Rob Walker. Mark Selby against Ben Wollaston. Good friends. We know about their long friendship. Wollaston spoke on here about it when he was a guest a couple of weeks ago. Bit of an oversight from us, but I'm not sure we actually properly thanked Ben last time. What a guest, by the way. Just terrific. Thank you so much for setting that up. He was great value. Thank you for all the kind words you said about it. I mean, Wollaston has beaten Selby, over the years, the English Open at 18, and more recently in a really short encounter at the Championship League. But I think that's a very, very tall order against Mark Selby. Goodness me! I mean, a lot of people tipping Mark Selby for the Championship, Phil, quite rightly, and most people tipping him for this match, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It'd be a huge upset if Ben managed to pull that off. He sort of scraped through his first qualified, didn't he, on the black, and then Ross Muir in a Judgement Day. He was favourite to win that, and Mark Selby at the Crucible is a seriously different challenge to that. Um, he'll be thrilled to be there. Hopefully, as I said, it's almost like a debut. It's been so long, so if he can sort of handle the nerves and start well, then of course he's got a chance. But yeah, you would think that would be Selby by 5 or 6 probably.
I would never want to sort of tell players what to say, but Ben's fallen victim of the please anyone but Selby card when he was asked who he might want to draw at Judgment Day. Because yeah, he pulled him out there. Joe O'Connor did the same last year. It just seems that every time you say you don't want someone, that's the person you're guaranteed to get
Yeah, that's right. Gilbert's done that a couple of times, hasn't he? He says,
on
"Don't
their Saturday
want,
morning.
yeah, don't
Yeah.
want Saturday morning." He always gets that. Don't want O'Sullivan gets him. Don't. Maybe say who you do want rather than the way around.
Can't wait to ask you about John Higgins, Shane, 'cause I know you speak to him an awful lot and know him really well. I've actually spoken to John for Sporting Life. He was honest, said he didn't want Ronnie to be there. Said, why would I? One fewer rival. Also got some more Higgins words to come, and obviously don't want to reveal too much. But he has played down that talk. I think it's fair to say that you can't win big before and then win the World Championship. But you've got to say, and I looked through it, I didn't realise it was quite as bad. The Tour Championship winners have an appalling record at the Crucible, actually, Shane. Not to say not winning it, most of them are going out first round.
Nick, are you talking about a curse? I thought you didn't believe in curses, Nick.
I believe in good curses. Go on, carry on.
There was the China Open curse, wasn't there? But Mark Selby broke that one year. John comes in cracking form, and it's really funny because you think at the age he is, will he be able to do it, sustain that stamina, that form that you need for that to climb that Crucible mountain 17 days? But he's won 2 out of 3 events, which were in a 3 week spell, which is effectively what the World Championship is. It's brilliant to see John back playing well, and I was so happy to at the World Open when we spoke over Zoom to see him smiling with a trophy because I've been not this about me at all, but I've been one of the people who've had to interview him through those heartbreaks. And they're hard. They're tough interviews because John's a great champion, always been a great champion, but he's openly spoken about going through that tough time. He's come out the other end of it now, back up to world number 3
Yeah.
at the age of nearing 50, he turns 50 in May. That's absolutely crackers. He's rising, not falling. And when you look at that 90 class of 92, he could be the one who is the last man standing. When previously Stephen Hendry said it, he thought that John might have been the first to fall away. So I'm really delighted for John. That match against Joe, people people have I've seen on Twitter, people have we're talking about Twitter again. That's going to be a slow, drawn out affair, but they're two of the best all-round players on the tour. John's one of the 2 best all-round players, in my opinion, we've ever seen, alongside Mark Selby. And they're both brilliant break builders, him and Joe. So that's going to be a cracking match that will test all facets. One for the purists, but in the best way.
Mm.
And a recent final, Phil, we've got to say, very recent. So Joe didn't play as well in that final as he had the rest of that tournament. If he ups his standards, I think this could be a cracker.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I really rate Joe, and he was so good in that tournament. And he sort of did drop off in the final, but he dropped off from an extremely high watermark, didn't he, against Murphy? And I think he beat Trump as well, didn't he? It was superb.
Mm.
So if he can find his game, he beat Mark Selby there last year, and if he can do that, you can do pretty much anything in this game. So yeah, that should be interesting. But yeah, John is flying at the minute, and it shows what a difference a win makes. Because I don't think he was that good in the World Open, but he got the win, and then he was that good in the Tour Championship. It was really excellent. So if you keep that form going, he's going to be very, very difficult to stop.
Definitely. Joe Goodon, Matthew Sell, pretty even head to head. First match 15 years ago. Although recent meetings have been in the Championship League, and to an extent, we always take those for, with a pinch of salt. I'm pretty sure I tipped Zhao as the one to go under the radar, so I guess I've got to tip him for this match. Very consistent season. I mean, won a tournament, reached a Champion of Champions final. I mean, they've got terrible Crucible record. I've only won, my terrible was a bit harsh, but it's hard to win matches there, but only one match between them, so no real pedigree. Yeah, I mean, Celt's always lost there. I think I'll probably make Shell the favourite there. Celt's got to get his head together, hasn't he, Phil? After it seems like from what happened at qualifying, I'm sure he will, but he'll have to do that.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call. I suppose. Yeah, Zhao must be a favourite. I would say. I mean, he has been really good this season. Even when he lost, he was playing quite well at the Tour Championship, as far as I remember. And just to get to the Tour Championship shows how well he's done. And those performances, the Champion of Champions, where he beat Ronnie and then Selby in the same day, wasn't it? I mean, it was superb. Just a player transformed. We spoke about Chris Wakeley, he's a different player now. And Zhao looks to be the same. You never know how long this lasts, because you said the same about Zhang Anda. He sort of tailed off again. But at the minute, yeah, he's certainly the more impressive. Matt was saying yesterday he will suffer with nerves. He just struggled to start well. He admitted that himself. So, but then I imagine Zhao will be in the same situation. So whoever can get themselves as settled as possible, as quickly as possible, will probably have a very good advantage in this one.
Shredsville all over that one.
Yeah, from the first ball, probably.
First mention of Shredsville, they got your bingo card out. We like that. Barry Hawkins, Hossein Vafai. I mean, I used the word enigma about CJ Heat that wasn't quite right, but I think I'll use it about Hossein Vafai. I'm going to say enigma there. Never quite know what you're going to get from him, do you? Whereas the thing with Barry Hawkins, you nearly always do know what you're going to get from him. Someone, I think, a good Rob France is going to come on here soon and say he likes the word metronomic, so I'll use it about Barry. He has got that consistency about him. So, to me, a lot of this, Shane, depends on what Hossein Vafai will see.
It does, and without revealing too much, but Phil did touch on it earlier. Hussein's struggling with quite a serious shoulder injury, which makes that performance yesterday all the more impressive because he sounds like he's in a lot of pain, not able to sleep too much. So yeah, wish him all the best with that. But I think that's another. We say it probably with nearly every match, but that's another match of the first round, isn't it? Barry was absolutely flying at the Tour Championships, and it took a very, very good vintage John Higgins performance to beat him. I've put Barry as my player to go under the radar at the Worlds for that program piece. And it's a bit unfair again because it's not really under the radar. He's such a good player and more than capable of winning it. But he's sort of the man who epitomizes the term going under the radar, doesn't he? And I think he'll have a really big say in the tournament if he can get on a run because years gone by he was that Crucible specialist that nobody wanted to face there.
Why does he go under the radar so much?
I don't know. People don't seem to tip him in terms of us, the pundits really. The players do. The players rate him so highly. We rate him so highly. He just doesn't spring to mind straight away, and it's really rude to say that, but that's just sort of how it's been for him over the years. If he's probably 3, 4, 5 matches away in his career, then going down as an all-time great. Some of those finals he's lost, one Triple Crown title on his CV, and he'd be regarded much higher. You'd sort of harsh again, but you forget the guys who lose in those finals sometimes as harsh as that sounds. But he's such a brilliant player, and he's so tough to beat, especially at the Crucible. If he can get on a run, he can go and lift the trophy, couldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's just been conversion, hasn't it?
Conversion.
He's under the radar, but I don't think he's underrated necessarily because everyone knows how good he is, and no one would be surprised to see him in a semi-final but people are surprised to see him lifting trophies because he just doesn't do it as much as he should do, really. I think when he got to the Tour Championship semi, I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 33 or 35 ranking event semi-finals he's been to, and he's got 4 titles. So he struggles to convert it, doesn't he? And that's the issue. And that's why, as Shane put really well there, that's why he's rated where he is and not the next level up. And I think that's sort of fair. But yeah, it could be an absolute belter that if a Fire can turn up and play like he was doing in that last game, and Hawkins plays like he did at the Tour Championship, that's a highlight for sure.
Oh, definitely. Mark Williams, where he is. I mean, this looks a bit horrible for Mark, actually. I mean, he's got his issues over his eyesight, we know. Wonderful, wonderful player, but it all seems to be quite badly timed for him. I mean, a bit beware the injured golfer, though, of course. Wu has got, I mean, never got a free run, but when you come through a qualifying match like that, Phil, it's almost like, well, I'll give it a proper good go now. He's such a good player. I mean, it's a bit obvious to say Mark's on a hiding to nothing there, but that's kind of how it feels, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to know what to expect from Mark because he is struggling. He definitely is struggling. That's not theatrics from him. You're never quite sure if he's sort of taking the mick a bit, but I think he's not with this. But so you wouldn't be surprised if he really struggles, but then you wouldn't be surprised if he plays brilliantly. Wu, yeah, amazing on his day. Still unpredictable, but that's understandable at his age. He has seemed to sort of struggle a little bit with pressure. I mean, that Scottish Open final when he played Lei Pei Fan, he would have been clear favourite there, and he sort of really underperformed. And then he was struggling a bit against Stevens yesterday. He did brilliantly to come back and get over the line, but early on he was getting really rattled. It was it was in the first few frames he got a warning from the ref for whacking his cue on the rail. So it's probably a sort of temperament thing, but again, I don't want to be unfair. He's a young guy and he's super talented. So he's only played there once before, didn't he? He lost quite heavily to Robertson, but as I remember, he played really well. He made a couple of tons,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that was in the double 146 match from Robertson. So he came up against a force there. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of people will sort of be fancying Wu here, but no one's going to be surprised if Mark Williams beats him either.
Yeah, that's a fair way of saying it. Nearly there, Luca Massol, Ryan Day. I mean, Shane, it's not a bad match for Luca. It's kind of my reaction to that. He's an unpredictable player. We know that. I mean, he can go deep again because all he needs is a couple of bits of confidence. The Crucible is just such a different event, which we'll all forget. We'll say it in our heads, but then we'll remember it. Ah, yes, 3 or 4 days in, someone that's done half nothing all season will be, potting them off the lampshades and that old cliche will say, oh, yeah, the Crucible's different as usual. So you never quite know. I mean, Day has his superior head-to-head, which is funny. Luke has bad head-to-heads for a former world champion against so many players. But, Day has good Crucible pedigree. He's one of those sort of generally kind of consistent guys to some extent, but in 3 quarterfinals over the years. But, I mean, Luca's just another great guy to watch. When he's playing well, Shay, we're all the winner, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't think there are many players better to watch. Ronnie O'Sullivan says he's someone he paid to watch, and that's high praise indeed. It's better than one of us three saying he's great to watch. You just never know what Luke is going to show up. How much form, how much prep has he put in? What form does he have in practice? Has he been practicing? Is he going to travel to and from Belgium between matches? Is he going to turn up to the media day tomorrow? He's formed for missing that over the years as well, hasn't he? So you just really don't know with Luke. He's so unpredictable. But I think that's what makes him so loved and why people are so frustrated by him on the tour among fans. They know how good he is, but maybe that's the battle. If you're that good, how do you put that hard work in to become that so consistent to play the way he did to win that world championship in such amazing style a couple of years ago? I don't think he'll think about the pressure of all those points coming off. I don't think he really cares, which again shows just what a laid back character he is. But that'll be a good game. Ryan more than capable of an upset. You'd probably say it's a horror draw for Luca, really. He probably would have wanted one of those rabbit in the headlights, maybe just to help ease himself in, play
Yeah.
himself into a bit of form, maybe because he's not played much this year. But yeah, I think Ryan might be able to nick that one.
Hard to know, isn't it, Luca? Because I think he was actually bubbling back into some
Mm,
impressive
yeah.
form, but that's a while ago now. His last game was at the Welsh Open. I think he got to the semis, and I was starting to be quite impressed with him between sort of just before Christmas and then. And that's a huge gap. And as Shane says, we don't know what he's doing. He's probably been on his bike more than the practice table. We just don't know. So if he can turn up and keep that trend going as he was up until the Welsh, then he's got a good chance of going deep again. But it's mad to make any predictions. So he hadn't won a game at the Crucible before he won it, and he's not won one since. So
Oh
who's
yeah,
to say?
yeah, and he was unwell last year, wasn't he? I mean, he just couldn't wait to get out there. It looked like, didn't it? We sort of admitted it as much, pretty much. Uh, for me, the first round match I'm looking forward to the most is Ding Zach Surtees. I mean, I said it on Twitter. Well, I'm not sure anyone's agreed, but not that that matters. But I think it's just a fabulous match. I mean, I don't think Nostradamus could call it. I mean, career and pedigree wise, it's Ding every day of the week. Of course it is. But Zach Surtees a funny one. Not only is he in the moment and in the zone, he doesn't seem to have a lot of fear at the moment. Oh, yeah, of course, Dig's favourite, but there's just something about Surtees, even for a debutant. I think this is going to be great. And I know we've got a bit of a thing about Zach. He's such a good guy, Phil, and we both sort of, we don't have favourites in our game, we're not allowed those. But I think this is going to be a great one. And well, we'd love to see Ding go deep as well. So, we're sort of torn, but for me, fabulous watches could be.
Yeah, I mean, he played brilliantly, as I said. All three of those games, he beat Kowalski, didn't he, very comfortably. And then the way he came back and beat Lasowski was amazing. Then seeing off Ricky Walden, I mean, I think he was probably second favourite for that match. He won very, very easily. Not easily, but it was a comfortable scoreline. I'm sure he wouldn't say it was easy. But yeah, so he's coming in flying, and Ding's very hard to predict. He's in and out. He played very well in patches in the Tour Championship. That game against Williams started awfully and then was amazing. And then his second game started amazing, tailed off, but he still beat Kyron, so it was impressive. But then he got handily beaten in the semi, didn't he? So hard to know. It's all about whether Surety settles. Debutant, he was saying us how he's just a massive snooker nerd. He was saying it
Yeah.
when he's not, and he's never been in the World Championship before. And I think he said he'd be in his pants watching the whole thing when he's not there. So he loves. He's not been to the Crucible. I think he said. Was
No,
that
not
right?
been, not
Yeah, he's
been.
not been. So he's likely to be overawed at least to some extent. Is how quickly he can get over that and how quickly Ding can start. But if Zach can get settled and keep this form going that he's been showing, then he's a threat to anyone. But you just worry if it takes an hour or so to get settled, you could be 4-0 down to
Yeah.
Ding Junhui, and then you're in a bit of trouble early.
And if Zach does beat him, he's going out in the next round because everyone who's lost to Ding this year, another curse there, Nick, for you.
The Ding
The Ding
curse.
curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you take the win against Ding to know you're going out in the next round? I'm sure you would, but yeah. But we know what's happening if that happens.
Another good curse. Not curses I don't like. I judge each curse as it comes. Right, Sean Murphy, Daniel Wells. Daniel's won a couple of their past meetings. I think Sean might be quietly pleased. I mean, Sean has been. Stephen Hendry said it. Never mind who else has said it. Shane. He said it a couple of weeks ago. It might have changed 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's the best player of the calendar year so far in the game. I don't think I've seen anyone play better than Sean in this calendar year, including the Masters, loads of other performances as well. Yet he's taken 2 thrashings lately. So the game often bemuses us, but Murphy so far this year is a real head scratcher.
Yeah, obviously played so well to win that Masters 10 years on from when he won it the first time. And obviously it's a 20-year anniversary for him as well when he comes back to the Crucible looking for that elusive second world title. So it's always good, as you said, Nick, always good when a year ends in five for Sean. So there's a chance this year, of course, for him. He's been so good. He said it himself. Those performances from Judd and Barry Hawkins, wasn't it, in those two tournaments, were unbelievable. And Joe O'Connor as well played unbelievably against him. So sometimes, although you might lose and lose handily, you look at your own performance and the way the other guys played, and I don't think that's dented his confidence so much. I spoke to Sean yesterday, and he feels he's in great form. His game's in brilliant shape to have a real crack at the Crucible again, and you wouldn't put it past him. That potential last 16 with Judd Trump really jumps out to you, doesn't it? When you start looking towards a bit further in the tournament, try and plot it out, which never goes well for us journalists because you think you've planned the tournament through and it never comes to fruition. But yeah, it's a head scratcher. I think he'll go there full of confidence again, and he's got every chance.
It's funny with Sean, isn't it? Because people do definitely play really well against him. But I suppose at some point you've got to look at why that is. And I've had players say to me before that he's the easiest top player to play. And I mean, that is within the context of top players where they're all very difficult to play. But he will always give you chances. Like you don't see people flying very often against Mark Selby. because he makes it almost impossible to fly against him. Like you've got to create everything yourself, whereas Sean will present opportunities for you and then get people on runs of scoring. Obviously, he's not always doing that. Sometimes people just do it themselves. But yeah, there is certainly a school of thought that he, he will give you chances more so than a lot of those guys right at the top of the game. So there's an opportunity for people to turn in these amazing displays. But yeah, you would certainly make him favourite against Daniel Wells, though. I wouldn't take those two recent losses as too dramatic compared to what has been amazing. Certainly since the turn of 2025, it's been brilliant from Sean.
It's lucky for Sean when the year ends in five. Thanks a lot, Shane, because that went down like tumbleweed when I did that in January. It was absolutely no one. I stopped saying it. No one sort of made the link or anything. So I'm touched by that. 3 months on, yeah. Judd Trump, Shao Yu Long, Judd a good favourite. I mean, we got a few good favourites in this round, but yeah, Zhao had a really good few seasons, of course, but not quite the same for him this year. I looked at the 1 year list down at 39th. So Judd, goodness me, we've all said it ad nauseum. Of course, he would grace having a second world title in so many ways, wouldn't he, Phil? Top career without it, but we think that multiple world champion would suit Judd in so many ways.
Yeah, I think everyone's sort of in the same boat now with Judd, aren't they? Everyone knows that he's sort of where he is in the all-time list is sort of just behind those group of multiple world champions. So he's somewhere between 5 and 10 probably, but he can't possibly get in that top five unless he adds more world titles to his CV. I think that's where everyone is with him really. So he knows what has to do if he wants to do that. If he's bothered what anyone thinks about him, sometimes I don't think he cares about that kind of thing, but he very much cares about winning and playing well. Um, and yeah, he's interesting form wise. I mean, he had an amazing first half of the season. Obviously, that's when he won Shanghai and Saudi and the UK. But again, it's judging by people's standards there. I was going to say he's not done much recently, but he was in a final a couple of weeks ago, wasn't he? The Players' Championship, and he lost it in a deciding frame to the world champion. So he's not doing badly, is he? And then losing the Tour Championship early really doesn't make any difference, I don't think. So yeah, he's going to be favourite. Joey Long is a weird one as well. Like 2 or 3 years ago, he really thought like he was the next coming force on the edge of the top 16, doing really well consistently. Then has dropped off. We were speaking to him actually. He's moved. He was in Darlington, and then through COVID, I think he just said there was just nothing to do there. So he's moved to Sheffield, and that's going to help with practice partners and it being a local player now. So look, if Joey Long plays well, he's a threat. But yeah, I would fancy Judd, obviously.
I think with Judd as well, it'll be really interesting to see how he feels confidence-wise tomorrow when we speak to him at that media day,
Mm,
because he openly said on ITV, didn't he, to Stephen Hendry, he wanted title close to the Crucible for that confidence going in there.
yeah.
But those talented players like your Judge, your Ronnies, your Lucas, it's sometimes just one shot that makes it click for them, and then they're really on fire. So Judd will have a big say on this tournament as he often does at the World Championship. 2 years ago, he didn't hadn't played so well. Oh, sorry, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
hadn't played so well and got to that final against Ronnie and ran him fairly close at times. So yeah, you just don't know. You don't know who's going to win it. It's such a we say it every year. It's so open, but you
Yeah.
could make a case for so many of these top 16 players, couldn't you, about their credentials to be lifting that trophy come Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah, I think with Judd, he lost in the first round a couple of years ago to McGill, didn't
Yeah.
he? And I remember speaking to him before that, and I just thought, well, yeah, you look like someone, sound like someone who's going to lose in the first round. And McGill was like the nightmare draw that time as well. As you say, we'll find out tomorrow what Judd is looking and sounding like. I don't think he's going to be like that, and I don't think Joey Long is the nightmare draw that McGill was then. So yeah, I'd be leaning to Judd.
I mean, sorry to the good people of Darlington there. Nothing to do, apparently. Not your words,
He-
Cos,
Joey
not,
Long's words, not
And
mine.
he said a lack of good Chinese restaurants as well. That was Moroccan, and he wanted to get Sheffield's got great international restaurants
Yeah,
for him.
yeah.
Shane, I've got to ask you actually. Do you think that many judges and parts of the snooker community are too harsh on Judd for his record in the biggest tournaments, like say the Triple Crown, when you consider he does rack up an extraordinary number of tournament wins in the round?
I think so. I mean, he obviously is an all-time great. Of course, he is one of the best players we've ever seen. Some of the shots he can play with that extraordinary cue power he's got. The only reason we say it is because we believe he's good enough to win multiple world championships. He said it himself, the shorter format probably suits his game a bit more. Get in and out, blast someone away in an hour, go off and do whatever he's doing, him and Jack, his brother. But yeah, he does get an unfair rap. I think Phil's exclusive Steve Davis the other day was quite if Steve Davis is telling you that he's one of the best players ever, then who are we? Who are we to argue? Us mere mortals.
Us mere mortals, indeed. Sorry, Phil, go on.
Well, I think Shane's right to say that Judd says the short format does suit him, and it's so interesting when he said that because almost no one else says that. If you speak to anyone from the top of the game to
No.
right at the bottom of the rankings, everyone says, "Oh yeah, the long format suits my game." Even though if you look at every best of 19 they played, they never won one. They'll still say, "Oh yeah, I'm suited to the long format." But Judd is, I think, the only person I've ever heard said, "Oh yeah, I'm really good at best of sevens. That's fine for me."
And his record's exceptional.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it went on that run a few years ago. We didn't lose one for so long because he hadn't lost any early rounds of eliminations before they got to the best of
Yeah.
nines. It was ages. So yeah, I mean, the only problem for that, of course, is if he genuinely does think that, and then he's played all these long games at the Worlds. Is that in his head? I don't know, but yeah, it's just something I've never heard from anyone else.
That makes a lot of sense. Tournament winner then for me, Kyron. Why not? Be mad not to go for Kyron. He's the best player in the world. He's winning everything.
And there's no Crucible curse. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter to you. So yeah, it's nailed on, isn't he? For you?
It exists. I just don't think it's any good.
Yeah.
Who's your tournament winner, Shane? Go on.
I tipped up Mark Selby in the program. Granted, that was before the end of the Tour Championship, but I just think he's so tough to beat there, isn't he? And with the way he's played this year, he's going to be a formidable force once again.
I went for Robertson in the program, so in half I'm going to stick with that. But I really don't like his bit of the draw, so I'm going to sit on the fence between two and leave Robertson as my tip in there. But I like Higgins. I know
Wow.
that's I mean he's just won the tour and we know all about that. And it's sort of going against everything I think that. But although Joe O'Connor is a tricky first round, I do like his bit of the draw there, and he's played so well, and he's just a different animal compared to what he was 2 months ago and for the years before that. And even when he was struggling, he was a force in Sheffield.
Yeah.
So yeah, Robertson annoyingly has gone down in print, but I'm really tipping John.
Can
I
you
like the
get
second one then?
can you get a late ad? Just tip exit out, everyone. I tell you what. I mean, listen, we'll write up whoever wins it as a great story because it will be a great story. It always is. But John would be an incredible story, actually. For me, that would be extraordinary. That really would. Thinking about it now, Shane.
He'd be a really popular winner, wouldn't he? I think among the players as well as fans, getting a fifth world title for everything he's achieved in his career, would go down as his greatest ever achievement. Obviously, would be the oldest winner as well, surpassing Ronnie's record from a couple of years ago. But I don't think age is as much a barometer as it was years gone by, 15, 20 years ago in snooker. Yeah, he'd be a really popular winner, and it'd be really special to see him lift that trophy after those heartbreaks, those 3 years from 17 to 19.
And it'd be just before his 50th birthday, like a week before or something. Though, what a birthday present! Bloody hell!
Yeah, not as big a party as old times days. He's been teetotal for quite a while now, hasn't he? But it'd be good. He'd be a great winner. He'd be a great winner, John.
Nice, more boring without alcohol, but you can still have good times. I can confirm that. I've written the word gap down because that's also 27 years would be extraordinary. I mean, 98. I mean, that would just be quite something if he did it again. So we'll wait and see. It's going to be fascinating. Comprehensive coverage then coming up of the tournament here in the UK on the BBC and TNT Sports. And of course, WST will have the details of where you can watch it where you are. Obviously, we're going to have Eurosport across Europe with various different options. WST will have it in the regions where there isn't a mainstream broadcast arrangement. Hazel Irvine, of course, presenting, fronting the coverage for the BBC. It strikes me she's been doing the job longer than David Vine now. Quite amazing that over the last half century, it's pretty much those two as frontline presenters. Well, I think, Phil, any other business, I'm just going to say I've spoken to Rob Walker from Radio Snooker to get his thoughts for the World Championship and what makes the Crucible such a special venue. Plus, I've talked TV coverage of the tournament there in the new broadcast. And my new John Higgins piece coming to Sporting Life soon, as well as my column on the Crucible curse to come. Phil, I know you'll have loads coming up. We're just, as I say, overladen with sort of material, and it's a magical time for us journalists, isn't it? Really, I mean, we talk about it so much. We look ahead to it so much. You talk about the business end for weeks and months. We're just rubbing our hands. Even for those of us in the press room, it's just dynamite.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's fitting it all in, like we said before. We've almost got too much stuff, but hopefully it's all good. Yeah, I mean, they had loads to come. I put up a piece this morning about sort of the incredible state Chinese snooker's in, which is the kind of piece that probably won't get read by that many people because it's not sort of dynamite. But I thought it was quite
Can't say
interesting.
that.
But I know I'm trying to promote it now because it's amazing. They've never had 3 ranking event winners in the season. They've got that now. 10 Chinese players at the Crucible. The previous record was 6. That's quite incredible. There's a number of other records that have been broken. And with the return of Zhao now and people tipping him as the first world champion, there's a number of them who have good possibilities. But also, I spoke to Roger Layton, who's Australian actually, who's a coach over in there, and he's had some interesting things to say about. He's not so sure how many more are going to come through now from China because the growth of Chinese 8-ball and the riches over there that they can sort of plunder without having to move to the UK. So I think it's an interesting piece. The guys on the Metro picture desk did a very nice bit of artwork for me. So if you've not had a look at that, please do.
And Shane, your keyboard will be on fire between now and the May Day bank holiday. Is this your favourite event to cover, or if it's not your number one, right up there?
I'd say it's my favourite. It's most certainly the longest and most draining. But in the best way. I don't mean that flippantly. No. Like I made a joke to the boys this morning about my fingers were hurting after all the tapping out I was doing, a bit of transcribing, which is obviously the bane of our lives, isn't it? Occupational hazard. But yeah, it will be, and it will always be exciting. Whatever happens during the tournament, whoever goes out in the first round, because there will be shocks. There always is that crucible carnage of the first round, trying to get through that first corner like a Formula One race. It'll be brilliant, and whoever wins it will be a worthy winner. Doesn't matter who they beat. If they don't beat Ronnie on the way it doesn't matter. It'll be an exciting, brilliant event, and whoever wins it will thoroughly deserve the £500,000 and the trophy.
Give us your own, Shane, description of what it's like to be there for people that don't. As a journalist, it's a sort of warren, isn't it? It's a warren of sort of tight corridors, and we're all in each other's hair a bit. But it's like nowhere else in the arena, but also just in the building itself. It's a real one-off.
It's brilliant. We spoke about that annual pilgrimage earlier, don't you? I don't think there's a time I'm more excited to go to an event than the Crucible, as much as it means staying away for 3 weeks, away from family, loved ones, and all of that type of thing. It's best event on the calendar. Everyone is so excited for it, all of us. And it's such a brilliant place, the Crucible. You walk in and you just get sucked into the fact it's snooker, and without saying I want it to stay there forever and ever and ever, which I do, but that decision's way above my pay grade, and nothing, and whatever I say won't change it. But it's such a special place, the Crucible, and we're so lucky to be so close to the action, able to go in at times. Or snooker sort out for us, and you get to really soak up that atmosphere, which is like no other in our sport. And I do think for any fans who haven't been and are big snooker lovers, they need to get there, because who knows what will happen in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I mean, here's another piece I've got coming up in a couple of days. I was speaking to a few players about what it's like in those few moments before you go out when they're stood in front of that board with the former world champions and there's a camera in your face. And there's some interesting lines from people, but just on what Shane was talking about there, just what and you said, Nick, about the Warren nature of it. Sean Murphy had a funny line where he's saying, yeah, that's your sort of precious few moments. You're trying to get in the zone. And then 2 ladies will walk right past with a tray full of dirty mugs and be like, oh, you're right, Sean. Exactly. So that is what it's like in there.
Yeah. That's so true. Rob walked on a similar line for me on Radio Snooker. That those sort of flash ones he does in the corridor. He says everything has to stop, and of course, sometimes it's not like another player or referee. It's like a trolley of drinks. Sorry. Yeah. Brilliant. Tell us where we can read your stuff, Shane, in the weeks to come.
So the Express, the Mirror, the Star, Scottish papers. I'll post most of the cuttings on my Twitter page as well, just for ease of access for people. But yeah, looking forward to a great event once again.
Of course, definitely. And well, we're going to shoot off then, folks. And just got to say, just enjoy the tournament. We have just seen, I think, a truly great piece of sport. I mean, putting recency bias aside, Rory McIlroy winning the Masters at Augusta, I thought that was just magic. I think it reminded us of the pure power of sport, its ability to move us and unite us. I've gone into romantic mode again, Phil, here, but the World Championship will do that. Even last year, an underwhelming tournament as I thought it was, we still had that John Higgins arms in the air beating Mark Allen. I think there's going to be a little bit more to this one. I think we're going to have a few special matches. And just got a feeling this could, vintage year, you never say that, but I really think we're going to have a strong tournament. So we just have to say, Phil, don't we? Shane's a great colleague of ours, and he's been marvellous on here. We've got to thank him very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much. We sort of made you do it because you're in my house, but we're still very, very grateful.
No, thank you very much for having me in both senses of the term.
We didn't really give him a choice, did we? Imagine revealing that right at the end. Quite right. Great to see you, Shane. Enjoy the tournament, sir.
Thank you very much. You too.
And we'll be back, Phil, next week, all being well after the first round, to update listeners on that, and then look ahead to the first of the last 20, the best of 25 matches. And yes, these events are to be savoured. We got snooker fan Rob Francis coming up live in Sheffield, of course. Hopefully that's during the semi-finals. And we love it, don't we, Phil? Final word to you. Nothing like it. I'll see you next time. Every day is mad. You wake up, it's snooker. You go to bed with snooker extra, falling asleep on the sofa. Nothing like these days.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's mad how long it builds up to, and then suddenly it feels like it's on you. Like the Tour Championship ends, and then it's qualifying. Okay, it's like I've got qualifying to get through, and now it's right here. But yeah, we wouldn't have it any other way. So much to look forward to, and enjoy it. You can't fail to. It never lets us down. So yeah, just have a good time.
Saturday morning, 10 o'clock sharp. The greatest snooker show of them all. We can't wait for 17 magical days, magical nights at the Crucible. With thanks to Shane MacDermott, I hope your World Championship is a special one wherever you are. And from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf, cheerio.